And so thank you so much for being here. My name is Sandy. And before we start, I'd like to start with the grounding meditation. This meditation just allows us to arrive in the space. So if you'll join me with closing your eyes or maybe just keeping a soft gaze, and all you're doing is noticing your breath. We're not changing the breath. We're not judging the breath. We're just noticing the breath, feeling the air go in through your nose, feeling the air fill your lungs, just noticing. Noticing the rise and fall of the chest. Slowly allowing your body to arrive in this moment, being present in this moment, arriving. Just slowly arriving. Noticing your body, any sensations that you didn't know they were there. We're just noticing. You made it here. Whatever your day held, you can now put down and show up for tonight. You being here matters, and take a moment to honor that. Feeling the chair or the bed or the floor beneath you supporting you. And when you are ready, taking in a deep breath in through the nose, holding at the top, holding that breath and feeling the stillness, allowing your shoulders to relax, your jaw to relax, your neck to relax. And when you are ready, you may exhale slowly and long, allowing your nervous system to know that you're here, you're safe and relaxed. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I keep saying this afternoon, this evening. I think as the sun is still out, it's so weird to say this evening and see the sun out. But it is the evening, and today we're going to be talking and discussing, diving deep into forgiveness and how forgiveness can help set us free. And so I will be talking a little bit of what forgiveness is and what it's not, so you can feel the contrast of that. And we're also going to go through some exercises. The exercises just kind of help give you a real life feeling. Thank you, thank you, Margaret. A real kind of life example of how you can use forgiveness. And with that, I also like adding exercises, because one thing is understanding it logically. And even with a topic like forgiveness, which is a topic that is very misunderstood sometimes of how it works. Just listening, what you're going to learn and you're going to hear today might not be exactly, something that is going to be easy for you to take, especially if you haven't worked in the forgiveness area before. So I provide exercises because forgiveness is a practice, it's an energy. And so the best way to kind of get it is by practicing it. So I will give you exercises on that. Also, we're gonna do some journal writing at the end, and then we're gonna open it up for discussion, which is my favorite part. It's my part of the community for us to connect and share our experiences or our thoughts about forgiveness and what you've learned. We approach these topics, or I approach these topics with curiosity. It's easier to kind of digest when you're just being curious about it. And so everything that I share is what I've learned, and it's kind of what, resonates for me. So feel free, this is a safe space to take what feels right for you and then leave the rest. So there's no pressure here to have to understand it or to have to feel like, why am I not, really diving into this forgiveness? Like, that's okay. It takes time. And that's holds true for every topic that we discuss. So every month, if you're new to the collective, every month we touch on a different topic. These topics are really inner work topics. They can be topics that may bring up certain feelings of discomfort. They can get emotional. I'm here to hold space for that. But they also bring so much clarity. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for wanting to be here to learn about these topics. And you just being here, you've already started to make shifts. So it's all about shifting the energy, working on learning so we can become better human beings, right? And that way we can transmit that to the world and make the world a better place. And that's really the goal. At least it's for me. So I want to start first by just kind of going over what forgiveness is, giving you a definition here. So forgiveness is it's a consciousness. It's a deliberate decision. So deliberate, like we make the choice to release the feeling of resentment or vengeance towards someone who has wronged us, or even a situation that has happened to us, or even to forgive ourselves. So, whether we feel like this is something that is being deserved to them or not, forgiveness is an energy that we hold for ourselves. And it's an internal act. It's something that happens inside of us. And therefore, because it happens inside of us, we have control over it. So that's the cool part. So, so, and it's also, we've talked about boundaries in February, but forgiveness is one of those other things that is about bringing the ultimate expression of self-love. So boundaries is also about bringing self-love, but forgiveness is really an act of self-love. You are doing it for yourself. And so, if you have a journal, this is something cool to write down. And then I can add this also to the email that I sent, which states that forgiveness is one of the most radical acts of self-love there is. And that setting the boundary is that second one. So every moment that you hold in resentment or with the boundaries, every moment that you allow people into that space where you don't feel comfortable, or you've been hurt. Um, when you hold on to that resentment, or you hold on to that resistance and the feelings that come with it, which is can feel like anger and or sometimes like hate, these feelings actually, if they're held for too long, that energy can come back and hurt ourselves, hurt our nervous system. So holding on to the feeling and not being able to forgive is actually is a price that we pay. that your nervous system pays, that your heart pays. And so, and the longer you hold on to that, the longer you'll see those effects happening in your life. And that's not just like how you deal with other people, but these effects start now becoming something that can start affecting you physically. So it's very, it's not just saying I'm not going to forgive, but it comes with a price to hold on to that. So it ties into, it also ties into radical acceptance, which we covered last month, which is one of the first steps of forgiveness is accepting the situation. And I want to make it clear that it's accepting the situation, the fact that something happened. So the fact that I broke up with my boyfriend, or the fact that I was let go of the job. Those are facts. Now, our stories, the why did this happen to me? Or that's not fair. Susan should have gotten fired and not me, right? All these stories that we said, those stories is not just saying like, I'm going to accept the stories. No, we're accepting the fact of what actually happened. And when we start accepting the fact as it like it happened, and as it is, then we can now move into the forgiving. But first, we need to accept it. And so that's why I want to explain what forgiving is not, to bring more clarity. So only because you're going to forgive, and this is where the misunderstanding comes, doesn't mean that that person doesn't deserve the consequences, right? They still deserve, if it was something that has to do with them going to jail, they still deserve to go to jail. They still deserve to, for you to remove yourself out of their lives. So what forgiveness is not condoning the action. So forgiving someone does not mean that what they did is okay. So that's one of the first things. It doesn't mean that it's okay, and it doesn't mean that because I forgive them, that if I forgive them, then this pattern is going to continue to happen. That's not what forgiveness means. It also doesn't mean forgetting. So you are allowed to remember that that person hurt you. You're allowed to remember that they hurt you, and you're also allowed to remove them from their life. But you can still forgive because it's an inner work. It's also not a reconciliation. So forgiveness is not like, okay, bestie, you totally, went behind my back and you told, so and so about, this thing that was personal and it was a secret. But since I'm going to forgive you, that's okay. That's like, we'll be friends again. No, when forgiveness doesn't mean you have to go back and have any reconciliation with that person that did you wrong. It's also not a one-time event. And this is really big. Forgiveness takes time. It's not something in certain things it'll be easier to forgive, but if you find yourself that you have been working on forgiveness and you've been trying to forgive someone, but you've noticed that it's just not, you're not there, that's okay. That's absolutely normal. And it's okay because it's a practice. It takes time. It takes practice. And hopefully, with the exercises that I provide today, can make that a little easier for you. And then lastly, forgiveness is not weakness. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you're weak because you forgive. It actually is quite the opposite. Forgiveness requires enormous strength to tap in, to sit with that wrong and all that feeling and that like, it's not fair, and everything that your mind is telling you, yes, it's okay for it to live there. But it is a practice, and it takes enormous strength to be like, okay, it's heavy, I can feel it, but I accept what happened and I'm releasing this and I'm forgiving. So those are the things that are misunderstood with forgiveness. So I hope that helps kind of bring you a little bit more of an understanding of how forgiveness is also freedom, because once you start the process of forgiving, you will start noticing that your body, your energy, your heart will start feeling lighter, and you won't have to carry all that resentment and that guilt and that shame sometimes that comes from holding on to feeling like you can't forgive someone. So now let's talk about why we don't forgive. So why is it that we hold on to this forgiveness, right? And what does it end up costing us from holding on to this? So one of the reasons that we hold on to not wanting to forgive someone, um, it is something that we can decide to do, and the feelings that you feel around it are legitimate. The reasons are real. But these are usually why we have a hard time forgiving. So we confuse forgiveness with justice. And this one's really big. And before I even go there, it just reminded me, I did want to share something personal. One of the reasons too that I decided to really learn about forgiveness and dive deep into forgiveness is because I kind of felt this really kind of like, I don't know, should I forgive? Should I not forgive? And I was very like undecisive of how to feel about forgiving someone. I know I didn't want to carry these emotions inside of me, but I also know that I'm a people pleaser, and I tend to be very naive around things. So I was doing a road trip with a good friend of mine. She's a shaman, and but she kind of also delves in like hexing. And I was like, okay, what's going on with the hexing thing? That's not something that aligns with me, but I was very curious. And I know I can be very open with her. So I decided we were doing a road trip from Oregon, going to Mount Shasta in Northern California. And so I asked her, I was like, what is your take on forgiveness? And she's like, no. She's like, if someone does me wrong, they're gonna pay for it. And so I was like, okay. And but I kept asking, I was just very curious as to like like, doesn't that feel heavy? And knowing her, she's a beautiful person. I love her, but I know that there is a sense of heaviness sometimes in her energy. And so I couldn't, we had this nice back and forth, and she was like, someone does you wrong, they don't deserve your forgiveness. They just don't. They deserve to pay for it. And I do believe in like, sending them, certain vibes for them to have to pay and repent for what they did. And I just couldn't, I was like, I just doesn't feel right to me. And I know that there's these like business, like you can go online and literally buy like poop like from all different animals and send it to someone. So and I don't want to go too off track, but it's just like it's there this whole idea of like either keying someone's car or doing these things. It's a natural instinct to feel that. And so I wanted to know, was she right? Was I right? Or was there something in between? And it wasn't really about right or wrong, but I just wanted to know where the path was. And so that's how I got into forgiveness. So I didn't mean to go on that little tangent, but I did want to give that backstory because it connects to this. So why do we hold on to it? And this is now where I learned where she was coming from, because we confuse forgiveness with justice. So we want them to acknowledge what they did, right? And we feel like, hey, they need to be accountable. And so there's a sense of justice that we feel that they have to hold. And that's why, and there's a believing that not forgiving them, then that's the justice that is served there. Second, we think staying angry protects us. So if we stay angry, then we're like, well, I'm angry, so then this person can't come and hurt me again. So if I forgive them, I'm letting my guard down. But resentment does not actually keep us safe. So that's kind of like where that crosses, like being angry and having that resentment, that doesn't keep us safe. And let me tell you, your nervous system does not like that either. It creates anxiety, it creates depression, it builds up walls, and then now you're not living a free life. Another one is that we believe our anger is the last connection that we have to someone, have towards someone. And this can be very true if it's someone that we love, like a partner or a parent. Feeling that anger is like there's still a connection there. There's still that cord that ties us there. So for some relationships, especially like the ones that we actually lost someone in our lives, that anger can feel like it's the only thing that remains from that relationship, that only tie that you have. So that can be a reason why we don't forgive. and we hold on to anger. And then the last one, we haven't forgiven ourselves. And this is so huge. When I first started doing forgiveness work, I was forgiving left and right. I was kind of like, forgive you, I forgive you too. And then I was feeling still heaviness and this sadness. For me, it's a lot of the sadness that I feel. And I realized that there is another component to forgiveness, and that's forgiving ourselves. Why? Forgiving ourselves for judging the situation, forgiving ourselves for the judgment. And honestly, I feel like it's harder to forgive ourselves than it is to forgive other people. And there's a lot of great work and tools that you can use for forgiving. And I, I can help with those too, on how to forgive yourself because we're forgiving the judgment of the situation. So yeah, so those are what holds us on to not allowing to forgive, and it costs us. So when we're in this space of not forgiving and one or all of those apply, it costs us our energy. So holding on to our energy makes us feel heavy. So we don't have the energy sometimes to do all the bright and wonderful things we want to do because we're holding on to this resentment. Also, when we can't forgive, we tend to get stuck in the past. So we either start ruminating, continue ruminating, like, I cannot believe that that person did that. And we're like in this looping sensation. So it robs us from being in the present moment. And robbing us from being in the present moment robs us from our peace. It could rob us from our sleep. Sometimes we can't sleep if we're still thinking about these wrongdoings, right? And then that leads to physical health. And so the body always keeps the score. And it holds on to everything that we refuse to release. And we might not be aware of it, but it does stay in. So I hope that that kind of resonated, or that kind of helped clarify a little bit of what forgiveness is and how that helps. And now I want to kind of go on to the chat and just type in. Um, I have a little question to kind of get the conversation going, and this is not the journal prompts, this is just questions. Is there something or I'm sorry, let me go back. When you hear the word forgiveness, what is the very first feeling that comes up for you? So you're just typing in the feeling. I'm just curious. Let's be curious. Hard, yes. Let's see. Miriam, it doesn't feel right. Either way, vengeance, yeah, is a negative frequency. Desire, letting go, struggle, yes. Miles, yes. Cielo, freedom. Susan, freedom, yeah. Vulnerability, yeah. And if you can't find the word, I do invite you to maybe close your eyes. Anytime you close your eyes, you tap in. It's easier to tap into yourself and just feel that word. Say the word forgiveness. What comes up? Yeah, for me, it was just kind of, I was kind of numb. I think I just didn't know where to go with the forgiveness. I think because a lot of the things that I was carrying happened to me when I was so young that I couldn't quite even understand what happened. And I was carrying this for such a long time without ever, even letting anybody know that I was carrying it. So just thinking about forgiveness, there was just a lot of numbness around that. It requires surrendering our ego. Absolutely, Miriam. It does. Um, our ego, if I to bring a little bit more clarity, yes, it requires us to surrender the ego as in the consciousness. So the ego is our consciousness, just kind of like the chatty mind, right? The kind of what holds us accountable for what's right or wrong. And so surrendering something to that. That's why I love using somatic work. When we do somatic work, we go inward, we go into our body. And when we go into our body, we can let go of the ego just a little bit. We don't entirely want to let go of the ego or get rid of it. It's good, it's there for a reason. But we want to hear the wisdom of our heart and the wisdom of our body when we're working with forgiveness. And then, Margaret, I have been redefining my definition of forgiveness. It seemed unfair. Yeah, yes. I think that a lot of that justice, that first one, the justice, about like it's just not fair that someone did that, it's kind of what holds on. But when we separate that, you're right, it's not fair, and they do need to bear the consequences, but let those consequences be like, like they have to go to jail or they have to live their lives without my beautiful presence in there, right? Let those be the consequences, but set yourself free inside to be able to forgive, to forgive. So, thank you so much for sharing. It does take a lot of work, Susan. It really does. And I hope that with the tools that I give you, it can make that work a slightly easier to move through. And trust me, just you being here, the energy is already shifting. You're already moving on to that. So Grace, help me forgive, remembering that I too have hurt people, and no one is free of not hurting someone. Absolutely. So, and that is one of the tools that we're going to see, that sometimes sitting and just putting yourself kind of in their shoes a little bit and understanding where the person that hurt you might be coming from can be a way of understanding and being like, oh, okay, hurt people. And so that can help ease and maybe bring about a little bit, making it a little bit easier to start doing forgiveness work. So now I want to go ahead and share with you some examples on real life forgiveness. And I did a little different this time. I think it looks better because before I kind of crammed it all in one sheet, and now what I did is that I went ahead and I did a slide. So we'll see. Hopefully I can share. This is where it gets a little tricky when I'm trying to share stuff. So, and I can't see. So I'm going to try to share here. Let's see if you guys can see this. Where do I have it? Okay, and can I move it? Okay, we're going to do a slideshow there. Yay. Okay, awesome. Okay, it works. All right, so let me make this small here. So this is the first example. So, forgiving another person, example number one. So, the stuck thought. So, this is the thought that might be coming through. I can't forgive them because they never acknowledged what they did. I need them to understand how much they hurt me before I can let it go. They don't deserve my forgiveness. Until they apologize, I won't let go. So, that's how it can come through in thought. And so we reframe it. So reframing is a term that they use a lot in psychology, where we're just flipping it around to help digest it better. So the reframe here is, I don't need their acknowledgement to begin my healing. I can say everything I need to say, not to change them, but to free myself. And my peace does not have to wait for their understanding. And then the real life exercise that you can use for forgiving another person is called the empty chair. And so with this exercise, you place an empty chair across from you, and you imagine the person sitting in it. And you're going to speak out loud, or you can write everything down. And then what you're going to write or you're going to speak are things that that you've never been able to say. So what we're doing is that we're bringing the energy from the inside and we're giving it a place to go. And that place can be in writing, or that place can be in your voice. And there's so much power in your voice. And you're just going to go at it. You're going to say everything you want to say. You're going to cuss. You're going to do everything, whatever feels right. You're just letting all that out, all that unexpressed emotion that you feel like you can't give to that you can't give to them face to face. This is where you do it. And then when you are ready and you're done and you're complete, then you can either place your hand on your heart and say, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. And I'm choosing to take back my peace, or take my peace back. And then, the chair stays empty. Your words are yours, and the release is real. So this is a great exercise to do. Um, I love that one. So now the second one is forgiving yourself. So the thought can come as, I should have known better. God, I do that a lot. I can't believe I did that. And I'm still so ashamed of that version of me. And then the reframe is that version of me did the best they could with what they knew and what they had at that time. I have grown since then. I am not that moment. I'm allowed to extend to myself the same compassion I would offer a friend. And then the exercise that you can use, this is a compassion mirror. I love mirror work. Mirror work is amazing. So then the way it works is that think of the version of you who made the mistake or the choice you regret. So just bringing that back in. And then imagine that person as a dear friend standing in front of you, right? And then you write a letter from your present self. So they're right in front of you, and you're seeing it's you, but you're seeing that as a friend. And then you write a letter, or you could even say it out loud if that works better for you. And you just write, what would you say to that friend? You know, how would you express it? Right. And then at the end, again, you can put your hand on your heart and just say, I forgive you. I'm proud of how far you've come. This is all powerful. I'm actually feeling this in my chest right now. It's just beautiful work. So the third example is forgiving life itself, things that happen that are sometimes out of our control. So the thought can be, life wasn't fair to me. Things were supposed to go differently. I'm still angry about what I lost. And the reframe for that is, this is not the life I've planned, and I'm allowed to grieve that. Yes. I have survived things I didn't think I could, and I can choose to find meaning in the detour without pretending it didn't hurt. And then the example for this one, and I love this example so much that this is what the worksheet is, the one that is for this class, and it's called the meaning map. And in this worksheet, you write down the situation, or like the chapter that you're still holding on to, whatever it is that happened, and then ask, what strength did I develop because of this? So it helps you see things differently, right? Why did I have to learn this? Like, what did I learn? Who did I become? You're not justifying what happened. You're reclaiming the narrative. And there is so much shift in that. So I hope that you find that very helpful. And you will be getting a copy of that with the recording. So you don't have to write it down if you didn't get to. If you were writing that down, I will, you'll get that in an email. So I hope those examples helped kind of bring more clarity. Um, and this information helped. So now I really want to dive into the journal prompts. And so we could have time for discussion at the end. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the journal prompts in the chat so you guys can take your time putting it on there. And I'll give you guys about 10 minutes